absolute pleasure to be here among you. My name is Jatin, and I'm lead UM manager at TechNation. Just a little bit of background about the company. We are a young and ambitious hypercasual publisher based out of Paris. We were established in the year 2019, and in a short time span of 2.5 years, we managed to publish over 15 hit games, which till date have been played and downloaded by over 500 million players around the world. In this process, we tested countless number of prototypes, and today I'll be sharing with you guys the learning we acquired from testing those prototypes through the lens of user acquisition. As we already know, the hypercasual games have relatively shorter development cycle than most of the other game genres, and that allow us to come up with a prototype very early in the game development. At Nation, we are providing all our partner studios with the game concept to work based on the trends spotted by our market research team. And as soon as the first prototypes are ready with the minimum in-game content, we can test them in across multiple ad networks and see what are the early metrics of the game. At this early stage of the game development, it's the creative that sell your game. So it's very important to have visually appealing creatives that of course also meet other requirements that we will talk about more in detail later on this slide. There are certain KPIs that allow us to establish the marketability of the game. That way you know if you should put more effort or not into developing the project further. One of the key indicators is of course cost per install is by far the most important metric for us. How much money you should put into this or this ad. Is this ad worth it, or is this game worth it, etc. You always want to ask yourself this kind of questions, because once again the goal is in the end is to spare money while being the most efficient possible. The next important indicator is cost per click, that allows us to see which creative works the best. It's telling us how much money we have to put so that people click on that ad, which is really important because making creative is a lot of work and you don't want to lose time on it. We will come back to it later to discuss about this KPI in detail later part of this slide. Next important indicator to take into consideration is CTR, or click-through rate. It's the ratio of people who clicked in relation to the people who have seen the ad. Once again, a good metric to have an overall understanding of what's attractive to your audience. Next very important indicator we look at definition is cost per mile, or CPM. Basically, it's the price per thousand impressions. It's an important metric to understand the competitiveness of the ad and the position of the ad in the ad network's waterfall. The last key metric we are looking at is the IPM, or install per mile, which is basically the number of installs per thousand impression. It's the another metric telling you about the efficiency of your ad in terms of installs that are being generated by an ad against every thousand impression. And there are many more, but really these are the key main KPIs we are looking at during the initial test phase of the game. When you end up mixing the whole thing, this is where you can have the most accurate and efficient results. It takes a lot of effort, but this is worth it and even crucial for the success of your game. At Nation, the platform used for testing prototypes are usually the social media. Specifically due to the huge audience pool, we can tap into the platform like Facebook. And since because our games are already played and downloaded by millions of users, we are able to tap into the audience that have been already interested in our games in the past. Another added advantage of running the prototype test on social media platforms like Facebook include the fast learning phase and low testing budget required to understand the market potential of the game. We generally run initial prototype test for 3 days, and we have seen that it's more than enough time to test campaign to be mature and ready with initial KPIs. With this very short compared to the other platforms, for example, on Google Ads, we have seen the learning phase can last up to a week. So compared to that, like Facebook, which lasts for 3 days, we are able to have the results in a very short span of time, which makes another reason why Facebook is one of the platforms we choose to run the initial test to test the prototype. The testing process is not only a way to determine if a game will be successful or not, but it is also a way to test what are the choices you should make in your game. By that I mean the colors palette you should choose, the gameplays, the characters, the eye direction in general. Here I would like to share with you an example from one of our hit game, Rock Crawling, that was launched in the year 2021. During the game development stage, we were faced with the difficult choice of what works best between the lava environment, that's the picture on the left side of the slide, um, and between the grass environment, which is the right picture as you can see. So we wanted to understand like what works best between these two environments, but also the second question we were thinking about is like if we should keep the level flat or we should keep it very steep slope, as we can see it like in the on the right side on the green environment, the steep is quite slow versus on the left hand side where we have the lava background where we have a flat level. We were able to get answers to all these questions by simply creating the motion design videos representing different game modes and test these games mode through user acquisition campaign on Facebook. I know you might be curiously thinking, okay, what worked the best? So after running the test, we saw the grass worked better than all other environments, including lava, desert, snow, and very steep slope worked better than levels that were more flat. This helped our partner studio to set up a game development direction through running these sort of tests, made us realize that a simple change of a background, the size of the characters, the zoom of the camera, all these kind of things can have a drastic impact on your KPIs. Social trends can become a very powerful themes and can usually be the basis of hyper-casual game ideas. Basing a hyper-casual game on a social trend is a way of ensuring your game will find its audience and be popular to a large amount of people. Usually, social trends are quickly followed by various hyper-casual games. For example, following the success of Pop-It Fidget Trading that was first released by Freeplay, we saw many games jumped on the trend when it exploded back in June, July of 2021. Another example of hit social trend dates back at August or September of last year when we had a milk crate challenge that first trended on TikTok. To stay ahead of the trend in these social trends, the general idea is to spot the satisfying videos over the social media channels like TikTok and Facebook that seem to start generating an interest and understand how the trend can be integrated in a game concept. At Tapnation, to prolong the shelf life of a hyper-casual game, our market research team is regularly spotting upcoming trends, and then we work on directly integrating the spotted social trends into our already existing games, turning a classic game into a trendy game. Integrating a social trend in a game can be a good way to increase the popularity of the game and strengthen both your in-game metrics and your UA strategy, and as it might drive down your CPI. Here we have the example of Tippy Toe, one of our hit game released in summer 2021. We changed the icon and in some levels of the game in order to include pop-in trends and make it more trendy and attractive. We saw that by changing the icon, integrating this pop-in trend, we were able to lower down the CPI from 60 cents to 35 cents in the United States. And integrating the pop-it social trend inside the game itself, we were able to bump the playtime metrics by over 25%. While running this initial prototype test on social media, it's also very important to take network restrictions into account. One of them being, like, of course, the formats diversity. Like, for example, we are testing on Facebook, where we have like different formats like 1:1, 2:3, 4:5, 4:6, and 9:6 format that we usually use to test the game concept on Facebook. This means that we need to adapt the view of each creative so it matches perfectly the format. We also need to take into account the UI of the platform itself. For example, as we can see on one of the picture on the right side, which is from the interface of TikTok, it hides all the bottom part of your creative. So it's important to don't not write anything there. Same goes for the top part of the video. We have seen most people skip a video after the first 3 seconds. The first moments of the video need to be appealing, with dynamic sound effects and music that catches the attention of the user watching the video. A/B testing the gameplay, you need to show. Back to the rock crawling example I discussed in the earlier part of the presentation, where steep slope creatives had the higher IPM and CTR when compared with the flat level creatives. After that comes the scaling phase, where you need to keep putting more money in the user acquisition as long as the game makes you to earn money in return or until the game is profitable. It's also important to understand, like, you have to branch out the creatives on a maximum of the networks that are being deployed in the user acquisition to understand that you are able to diversify in terms of the user acquisition strategy and in terms of the creatives as well. It's also very important to make the iterations around the best performing creatives to maximize the potential of your scale of the game. For example, if we are seeing like certain trend or certain gameplay is performing quite well on the creatives, so it's very important for us to make sure we are iterating new concepts around that particular gameplay or that particular trend. Later on, it's also quite important to understand the effect of the creative fatigue, which happens while the game is being scaling, or while the game is like already being scaling for, let's say, 3 to 4 months. It's very common to see the creative fatigue when you're using like a same video across all your game networks, UA networks. In this situation, you need to try different ideas for your creatives. For example, I shared like earlier, like you need to iterate more around your winning concepts or winning gameplay videos. So here, like that's why it becomes more important to iterate to make sure like you avoid the creative fatigue, because what we have seen, like when there is a creative fatigue, you can uh, easily hit 2x or 3x of your target CPI, which can like severely impact the scale of your game. Thank you everyone for listening. I stay available for you in the Q&A section for any questions you might have. Thank you. Have a nice day.